and welcome to MCLE This Week. I am your host, Bruce Richard. I'm a program attorney here at MCLE, and I want to welcome Robin Nice to our podcast today. Robin, first off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice?
Sure. My name's Robin Nice. I'm a partner / owner at McAfee and Nice in Boston. We are exclusively an immigration firm. We kind of specialize or focus on asylum and other forms of humanitarian relief, but we do everything except business or employment law because I did not think things through as a business model. But I love my job and I've been practicing for about 13 years at this point.
13 years of this?
Yes.
So, just quickly, what was this like 12 years ago?
It was better. I mean, I think things, as much as we complained at the time when Obama was in charge about how he actually had surprisingly high deportation orders under his
Right.
administration. But like I would go back to that in a heartbeat, and I think any immigration attorney would. This is just an absolute onslaught. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts and then just straight on immediate stabs through the heart, blows to employment-based stuff. I've been charging $100,000 now for an H-1B process, and there's a new asylum rule basically that says you have to show asylum from your home country and also from Honduras, just for everybody. You just have to show you have a claim of why you can't go back to Honduras. So this is like a new beast. It's a new animal. It's definitely worse than I've ever seen.
Right. So, we're going to try and focus in on ICE in particular for this
Sure.
podcast. So, to start off, can you explain what ICE's primary functions are, just sort of how they intersect with the broader immigration enforcement system in the US? I mean, I believe ICE has been around for quite some time, just not sort of in the form that we see all over the place now.
Yeah, so ICE has been, and I think when we typically think of ICE, we think of the people in the uniforms or masks, also, walking around on the streets and are in videos or in real life. We think of like the police unit of ICE, and that's true. That is obviously like a big part of who ICE is, but ICE also includes effectively the prosecutors in immigration court. So career attorneys, sometimes former immigration judges who got fired, and our immigration attorneys there. But the ICE that we normally like talk about in day-to-day parlance, their job effectively is they're the enforcement arm of immigration laws. So they are a federal unit, and they have the authority to arrest and detain individuals who are not lawfully present or who do not have permanent status in the United States. And the scope exactly of sort of where those boundaries, the limitations of their scope and powers lie is, I think, constantly being tested and pushed further, particularly now. But essentially, their job is to enforce the immigration rules we have.
Okay. So, what are the most common misperceptions attorneys and, well, the public generally have with ICE's authority and operations?
I think one that is hopefully getting being better combated now in terms of like public perception is that ICE are police, or that ICE you have to if ICE is talking to you, it's the same as if the police are talking to you, and it's just not in a lot of ways. And you don't, when ICE stops you, if someone is at whether it's a traffic stop or ICE knocks on your door or whatever, they make it sound like you have to do whatever they say. You have to give them whatever you say they have to give you, whether it's your phone or your wallet with an ID in it. You have to answer their questions, and you frankly don't, unless they have an actual judicial warrant signed by a judge and not an ICE arrest warrant, which is sort of like monopoly money of warrants. You don't have to do those things. It is not someone's obligation. And so I think making sure that people understand what their rights are really sort of is the other side of the same coin in terms of what their authority is. I think that's one of the main misconception, is that they have this really broad authority when really they shouldn't, or they don't legally. They just act like they do, and then it kind of builds on itself that this sort of fake authority, I guess, that they
How do
assume.
you how do you tell the difference between a judicial warrant and an ICE warrant?
It will say judge on it. So which is a good giveaway.
Right.
But literally at the bottom of it, like, and there'll be a signature block, and it'll say, like, have the name, the typed name of the person who's signing it. And so it'll say judge or honorable, and then it'll have a squiggle that's a signature on it. And that's what you are looking for to see if it's a real warrant. I have seen zero of those in my real life. They're because they're harder to get. You have to go to a judge and get a warrant to find someone and go after them. So those are just, they exist in the world, but they're not typically what we see. So what we usually see is an ICE arrest warrant. So it says warrant for alien arrest or alien arrest warrant on top, and it's signed by an ICE officer. The word judge or honorable is not on it. So that's sort of the quickest way to tell the difference. But of course, when you're in that situation, you just panic and do whatever they say because it's scary.
Right. So, how have ICE's enforcement priorities shifted under different administrations? And what impact does that have on how you advise their client, or how you advise your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot under prior administrations, even Trump 1.0. There were priorities. And so we could say, okay, well, sometimes if you hadn't, depending on any criminal record, how serious of a criminal record, how long you've been in the United States, if you had children in the United States, you would fall under different priorities. And that really came into play because that meant if you were a lower priority, you probably weren't going to get intercepted by ICE. If you did, you weren't going to get detained by ICE. You weren't going to be sent to immigration court. So there's all these different kind of levers that ICE can pull. Whereas now there are no priorities, which means effectively everyone is a priority. And we see that when ICE very publicly is saying that they're trying to make quotas of arresting like 3,000 individuals a day. So what that means in terms of how we advise our clients is it's really hard. Like I just literally before we were talking, I was talking with an individual who came into the United States in 2004, missed his court hearing, so he got an in absentia deportation order. He tried to challenge it, and the judge found it was Texas law controlling, which is really strict, and he was found he didn't have a good excuse, and he's asking me like, should I just pack my bags and go? And I literally said like, I don't know, man. Like that is a very personal decision because on the one hand, you've been here for 21 years without incident, no criminal history. ICE has never come after you. On the other
Right.
hand, everyone is frankly at equal risk. And so it's really, really hard to advise clients and for frankly clients to trust us when everyone is at equal risk. It's really unpredictable in wild times.
Right. Um, so when a client is detained by ICE, what are the immediate steps a lawyer, whether they specialize in immigration or not, should take?
Just exercise your expletive vocabulary is step one. And then step two would usually be if you're not an immigration lawyer or you are not, or if you're an immigration lawyer who doesn't do habeas work or habeas court or habeas petitions in district court, to have someone on speed dial in advance. You want to, I think, any attorney needs to have that immigration attorney they know and trust on speed dial, ideally two, so that if the first one doesn't answer, you have a backup because you really do have to move quickly. There's specifically three things that I do as an immigration attorney as soon as I get a call from someone saying they're detained, if they're a client or potentially a client. I file an entry of appearance with ICE, which you can do online. You don't need the client to sign that. It's automatically processed. That gives me permission to talk with them. I also file immediately a motion for a bond hearing in the immigration court, which you can do electronically as well, so that you get in the scheduling queue for a bond hearing, because that usually takes at least 1 to 2 weeks to get scheduled. So they're going to be detained that
Okay.
long. And then three, nowadays we file a habeas petition, and that is new. We didn't used to do that. I filed more habeas petitions in the last 4 months than I did in the prior 12 years. And that's because when we're filing those petitions, it's usually to make sure that the individual stays in New England. They don't get shipped down to Louisiana or Georgia or elsewhere.
Right.
So it's a lot of really quick steps that literally like within a couple of hours need to be taken.
Okay. How how far along are things when you get the call that someone's been detained? Is that usually do you get that call within the day, or is this something that's extended, or
Yeah, usually not the same day. I got a call as I was driving back from the Burlington ICE field office today, for a client's check-in, and I got a call from an existing client, and her boyfriend was detained yesterday afternoon, and I think she spoke with him about 12 hours later, but it's not an immediate call usually. Another client I represented who was a junior in high school at the time, he wasn't allowed to make an outgoing call even to his parents for about 24 hours.
Mhm.
So it's not an immediate thing. It's not like what you see in the movies of, oh, you get a call right away or something like that. Sometimes people have already even been moved at that point, outside of the state.
How far outside of the state do they get moved?
Texas, like as
Okay,
far as you can go.
right,
I think the fear is like if they get removed, like physically moved out of the country, if they have an existing removal order. ICE, I don't think has been that fast in my experience, but
right.
who knows? But yeah, I think the most popular destinations these days has been like Texas and Louisiana and Georgia.
Okay.
Advance your practice with the MCLE Online Pass. For one monthly subscription fee, you can access everything MCLE has online: live and on demand webcasts, ebooks, forms, checklists, and more. Start your free trial today at mcle.org/onlinepass.
So can you walk us through how due process operates, or sometimes doesn't operate, in immigration detention and in removal proceedings?
Yeah, the doesn't operate really is the bulk of that answer. It's like it's a travesty. Will be the amount of due process violations we just sort of tolerate or that are baked into the system. I think the fact I think just as a very preliminary issue, the fact that someone who's in immigration court proceedings doesn't have the right to a court appointed attorney, even if you're a minor, is insane. We wouldn't put a minor on trial for a murder charge, for example, and
Right,
potentially face life in prison. So why are we doing that and putting someone in the position where they could be deported to a country that they don't know? So that's that's already right off the bat. You're already kind of um, fighting with one hand tied behind your back. But other issues, I mean, in terms of the court process, it's not uncommon for an immigration court case to last 5, 10 years. I have a client right now who's been in court for 15 years, through no fault of his own, but judges get fired or judges quit. The caseloads keep growing. Trump has just recently fired about 15 of our 20 judges at the Chelmsford, Massachusetts court. So whereas before each of those 20 judges had about 5,000 cases, now those are all divvied up and all these cases have been postponed from like 2025 to 2029 or 2030.
right,
That means is you're then going to be penalized when 5 years from now you can't remember if the officers who detained and tortured you were wearing blue camouflage or green camouflage, because the system is so broken that they delayed it. And by the way, you're going to be paying $100 every year now for each year it takes them to adjudicate your case. And it's just insane. And so I think that's one. And the other example I can think of in terms of due process violations is my colleague had a hearing yesterday, and she was being really pressured by the judge and the government attorney, the ICE prosecutor, to just rest on the record. It was a detained asylum seeker, and they were saying, just don't give testimony. Just like, let's just rely on his statements. And that's just insane. Like the fact that we are willing to just disregard these procedural safeguards for the sake of expediency
right.
when it serves us is just absurd. But I could go on. There's many.
So what are some key legal arguments or procedural tools attorneys can use to challenge ICE detainers or enforcement actions?
Yeah, I think our biggest asset and a really big tool in our toolbox for immigration lawyers now, specifically in Massachusetts, is the district courts and this is the federal court system in general in Massachusetts. I think we're really fortunate to have a great bench. I think the judges in district court have been really receptive to habeas petitions. They do not like that individuals have been um, detained and said that and been told that they're not eligible for bond because they entered without a visa, 20 years ago or whatever. They don't like these very creative interpretations slash complete rewritings of the Immigration Nationality Act. So they've really had our back, I think, or they've been a beacon of hope and logic. So that's huge. But the problem is, or one of many problems is, you take immigration lawyers who, like probably any lawyer, are already overwhelmed and feel like we're drinking from a fire hose. And then we tell ourselves, okay, now you need to go learn, frankly, just how to navigate Pacer and figure out how to file
Right,
any kind of motion. And so you have to come into it with a real sense of, I think, humility and willingness to figure it out really quickly, and ask questions and not worry about sounding dumb or naive, because you just got to get it done in a quick manner. But I think the district court and federal litigation in general is a major tool we have to be leaning on more now.
right.
And MCLE has a program on that, I know, because I signed up for it on filing motions in district court.
Yes. Yeah, and we've also got Annalise Arroyo has just agreed to present a program. We've got a program on habeas
Yay.
petitions that we're trying to get out towards the end of December. No
Awesome.
confirmed date yet, but soon.
She's a busy
Uh,
lady. It's hard.
I I don't know an immigration attorney who isn't a busy
That's
person right
fair.
now.
But she holds it together.
Yeah. Um, so looking ahead, what reforms or structural changes would you most like to see to ensure that ICE's work aligns more closely with constitutional and human rights principles? Wow, I gotta say,
That's a
just for
big
the
question.
audience, that was a mouthful. I did not necessarily come up with these questions. And that's an interesting question to come up with. Robin, what do you think?
I think it's a very diplomatic question. I think
Yeah,
the main structural, maybe this is not a structural change, but the main change I'd like to see is a different inhabitant of the White House. I think, I mean, honestly, like we need we need a change in the regime. Because everyone is getting their marching orders from a xenophobic racist at the moment. And I don't know if that's editable, but like that's what's going on. Like the laws that we're writing and the case law that is being promulgated by the Attorney General is designed to keep certain people out of the country. Obviously, I feel like that's just probably stating the basic facts. But beyond that,
yeah,
I certainly don't want to see like comprehensive immigration reform right now. That would be a nightmare. I can't imagine what that people would come up with if we gave them the reins to do that. I think what I'd love to see and has been nice to see is DACA for DACA to get expanded. We saw, you know, the recent case law has said that people who didn't have DACA or deferred action for childhood arrivals, who didn't have it before, actually can now apply for the first time, which is huge and that's awesome. But there's not a lot of folks who fall into those very narrow parameters anymore.
right.
We need to see that extended because there's still folks like again that junior in high school who came here as a 7-year old, no criminal history, but has no pathway, like no clear pathway to stay in the United States, and that's a huge loss. So I think just a recalibration of frankly just we could just go back to following the law as written, and that would be a great step in the right direction because as it is now, there's such wonky interpretations of what counts as a recent arrival or a port of entry is really just throwing the whole legal system into chaos. So I think just like going back to basics and learning how to read the statutes would be a great start.
Right. So if a 50-year-old Swedish person who is fully employed
Yeah,
would like to move to the United States and they're going to work remotely from their job in Sweden, but they want to live here, how,
yeah.
how quickly how quickly can they make that happen?
Um,
Because this is in theory
yeah,
the immigrant that the current office
that
is
we
looking
want.
for. So I'm
Yeah,
curious, is there a way to bypass these, you know, 5-year waits
yeah,
on so many of these immigration processes to get the immigrant that the
that we
current
want.
office wants? Or is
Yeah.
this a case of you're losing everything is just going to get backed up?
I think it is a little bit of everything's going to get backed up. I think with acknowledging that I do not, again, I do not do business and employment law, but
Right.
I know enough to say it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for that Swedish man to
Sure.
get a green card in the United States, whether it's through the new like gold green card or the golden process, gold card,
Sure.
whatever. Or even, I mean, just there are other petitions where you can even just have premium processing where you just throw money at the problem and you get a decision much faster. There's no way to premium process an asylum application or a petition to bring your child from the middle of nowhere where they're living in hiding to the United States. So yeah, I mean, I don't think, and I think also it's we're a lot less attractive to folks who want to come here when like maybe you're wanting to come to the United States to be an entrepreneur and to start a business, but you know you're going to have to attract people on H-1Bs, but you're not going to be able to pay the prevailing wage anymore that you have to. You're not going to be able to pay $100,000 extra for each individual. So it's just getting onerous on every level and a little repugnant, I think, for people internationally to want to come here. So I think we are just shooting ourselves in the foot in every dimension, whether it's economic, moral, or otherwise. But yeah, it's none of it is helpful. It's just
Right.
causing chaos.
So does this mean that folks who are trying to get asylum from the country that they're in, are they looking to go elsewhere, or is the United States still the best option in spite of everything else?
No, I mean, I've had clients where I reach out to them and say, hey, just checking in, or, it's time to renew your work permit. And they'll say, oh, I moved to Canada. And I already have asylum. Like, I moved there 6 months ago and I already have asylum. It's like, I'm like, I don't blame you, man. Like, that was the right choice for you. The other example I have is I'm representing a young guy from Cameroon. He's like 24, and his experience had been, there's basically a civil war or genocide, depending how you want to call it, in Cameroon
Hmm.
right now. And he had been detained and tortured, and just like awful things had happened to him. And his family is living in hiding, like in the forest, basically, which is a very common situation right now. And I was asking him, have you talked to your parents much recently? Like, have they told you how they're doing and if they're safe? And he said, honestly, I don't talk to them much because it really stresses me out. And I'm like, oh, because you're worried because you're not there to protect, like you don't know what's going on. He's like, no, they keep telling me how worried they are. They're saying, are you okay? Because we see in the news that, all this stuff around ICE and stuff. Are you okay? So the fact that we have Cameroon parents and hiding in the jungle, worried about a 24-year-old guy in the United States, is, I think, a real great temperature check or indication of sort of where we're at. But yeah, absolutely,
Right.
people are already not coming here.
Well, on that happy note,
But people should
uh,
still practice immigration law because it's rewarding and important and amazing.
uh, and and you're never going to be short of work.
You never, yeah, come hell or high water, you will never be short of work,
Well, and
and unless we will be. Like,
well,
let's completely abolish, but then we have bigger
and
problems.
and I mean, to be fair, that has been true for immigration attorneys, uh, for easily a generation.
Yeah,
This
that's
it's
true.
it's like you said, uh, this was happening with Obama, and
Hmm.
you know it's just ramped up since then.
Yeah,
So
it's a different, more intense flavor.
right. So Robin, I want to thank you for joining the
Thank you so
podcast.
much.
Um,
This was a blast.
yeah, it's always a pleasure. So for folks who are listening, I should mention, I'll mention it again, that Annalise Arroyo has a program coming up on MCLE in December. And we've got the Immigration Basics Plus program that's coming up February 2nd. So for those of you who are interested in getting involved, that is a 2-day program. They go through all of the basics. It's excellent. And Robin, I believe you're on day 2 for that program, or is it
Yes,
day 1? Day
I
2?
believe day two. Yes.
Day 2. So,
Yes.
um, so folks, if you're interested in a little bit more, please check out the offerings. So, Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking with you again.
Sounds great.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye.
The MCLE This Week podcast is a production of Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education in Boston, Massachusetts. For sponsorship opportunities, email us at podcast@mcle.org.